If they play dirty, you do not meet them in the mud. You meet them in the mind. The world does not reward the cleanest heart. It rewards the sharpest awareness. This is where most people misunderstand Machiavelli. He was never teaching cruelty for its own sake. That accusation belongs to those who feel threatened by clarity. What he offered was more unsettling than evil. He offered vision. He showed how to remain standing in environments where honesty is punished and naivety is harvested. Look closely at the people who dominate rooms, offices, circles of influence. They rarely shout. They rarely rush. They smile, listen, and quietly reposition the board while others are still arguing about fairness. Power does not announce itself. It arranges itself. Those who play dirty are not stronger than you. They are simply less sentimental about human behavior. They do not confuse intention with outcome. They do not mistake politeness for safety. They understand that reactions leak information and that silence compresses pressure. Most importantly, they understand that good people hesitate. Good people expect reciprocity. They believe decency will be mirrored. That belief becomes the opening. Dirty players do not attack strength. They attack expectation. They wait for you to assume shared rules, then they move when you are most exposed. Refusing to see this does not remove you from the game. It places you in it without armor. Machiavelli never promised peace. He promised position. He promised that once you understand how power actually operates, people's behavior stops surprising you. Awareness replaces shock. Observation replaces outrage. You stop reacting and start seeing. This is not about lying or harming. It is about surviving systems that reward manipulation while pretending to punish it. When you understand the terrain, you conserve energy. You stop bleeding emotion into situations designed to extract it. You become calmer, sharper, and harder to push. The first uncomfortable truth is this: dirty players are drawn to good people. Not because good people are weak, but because they are consistent. Transparency becomes a map. Predictability becomes access. A good person behaves the same way everywhere, with everyone expecting the same moral exchange in return. That consistency feels safe. It is also exploitable. Those who manipulate do not hunt power directly. They hunt patterns. They watch who pauses before asserting themselves, who rushes to explain, who feels guilt when setting boundaries, who grows uneasy in silence. These traits are not moral flaws. They are signals. Signals invite pressure. When you assume others will act as you would act, you surrender control over timing and outcome. Dirty players do not overpower, they wait. They allow you to self-limit, they test gently. A delay here, a misrepresentation there, a quiet shift of responsibility. They watch your response. If you stay polite, they advance. If you stay hopeful, they continue. Each reaction teaches them how far they can move without consequence. Kindness without leverage becomes instruction. Restraint alone does not earn respect. Restraint without consequence invites escalation. When someone realizes you will always choose harmony over position, they no longer negotiate. They calculate. The danger is not kindness. The danger is being readable. Those who exploit fear uncertainty more than ethics. They fear people whose limits are unclear, whose reactions are not immediate, whose silence is not nervous. This is why advertising virtue can be dangerous. When others know exactly who you are at all times, they know exactly how to unbalance you. The correction is not cruelty, it is ambiguity. You do not need to change your inner values. You change what you reveal. Clarity is not owed to those collecting information. Consistency is not required where trust has not been earned. Predictability is a liability when others benefit from your hesitation. When you stop assuming decency, leverage returns. When you stop rushing to restore balance, control returns. Silence ceases to feel uncomfortable because you understand its weight. Machiavelli also understood that obvious strength attracts resistance. When power is loud, others prepare. When it is hidden, they relax. This is where controlled weakness becomes strategy. Not incompetence, not submission, but selective restraint. When others believe they are ahead, they speak more freely. They over-explain. They reveal priorities. Impatience surfaces when advantage is assumed. The mistake most people make is proving competence too early. In doing so, they shut down the flow of information. The moment you reveal full awareness, others retreat behind masks. There is power in letting assumptions remain untouched. When people believe you missed something, they repeat it. Patterns emerge. Intent becomes visible. What they think is invisibility becomes exposure. Machiavelli did not advise constant dominance. He advised selective display. You choose when to assert and when to observe. Variation disrupts calculation. Without a stable model of you, others hesitate. Ego wants recognition. Discipline wants leverage. The goal is not early victory, it is quiet advantage. Explaining yourself is another trap. The moment you justify, you surrender authority over interpretation. Explanations invite judgment. They provide angles. Those who manipulate are not listening to understand. They are listening to extract. Silence cannot be edited. What remains unsaid cannot be reframed. Withholding commentary preserves ambiguity, and ambiguity protects position. Authority announces decisions. It does not plead for acceptance. When you explain excessively, you reveal priorities and fears. Those become future pressure points. Power does not rush to be understood. It allows others to project. In projection, truth leaks. Discomfort grows. Control shifts. Not every action requires commentary. Discernment replaces impulse. The fewer handles you provide, the harder you are to move. This is not deception. It is economy. Words regain weight when they are rare. Dirty players rarely confront. They position. They shape context so that any response harms you. They wait for the right audience, the right timing, the right fatigue. Then they remain calm while tension works on your behalf. Reputation erodes through implication, not accusation. Loud defense confirms the frame. Silence weakens it. When you refuse to perform the expected role, scripts collapse. Patterns reveal themselves. Context speaks louder than argument. Fairness, when clung to blindly, becomes another trap. It offers moral comfort, not balance. It only functions when rules are shared. When one side abandons them, rigidity becomes exposure. While you deliberate ethics, others calculate advantage. Tempo shifts. Momentum transfers. Justice without consequence is decoration. Those who exploit respond only to cost. When behavior carries none, it repeats. Precision matters more than politeness. Accuracy restores leverage without noise. Delayed response is another quiet weapon. Urgency benefits manipulators. Speed leaks information. Pause creates uncertainty. Without feedback, others recalibrate. Anxiety replaces confidence. Authority is associated with control over pace. Delay is not avoidance. It is withholding. It protects clarity and denies calibration. Pressure reveals itself over time. Impatience surfaces. Intent becomes visible. Power is unhurried. Identity is often the real target. When self-certainty fractures, resistance fades. Subtle remarks, comparisons, framed concern all aim to destabilize direction. Doubt redirects energy inward. While you question yourself, others advance. Anchored identity resists this. When values are defined privately, commentary loses grip. Change chosen is strength. Change induced through confusion is weakness. Self-trust closes access. Predictability invites planning. Planning creates leverage. Controlled inconsistency breaks it. Variation without explanation disrupts entitlement. When access is not guaranteed, behavior adjusts. Respect increases quietly. This is not chaos. It is autonomy. You are not offering a fixed version of yourself to everyone. Irregularity creates friction for those seeking control. Sometimes the strongest move is absence. Disengagement collapses structures built on reaction. Attention is currency. Remove it and influence weakens. Walking away communicates self-sufficiency. It introduces uncertainty without confrontation. Presence grants access. Removal blocks leverage. Power does not always confront. Sometimes it exits. The final truth is this: Machiavelli did not teach domination. He taught elevation. When interaction becomes costly, manipulation fades. Control over self dissolves control over you. You do not need to fight every move. You need to remove predictability. Power is alignment, not noise. When you stop reacting on command, others grow careful. Unreadable people are expensive. Position becomes freedom, and freedom is the advantage. Those who learn to see power clearly stop confusing morality with safety. Morality governs intention. Power governs outcome. The two overlap only when environments are cooperative. When they are not, intention without awareness becomes exposure. This is why Machiavelli emphasized observation before action. The first advantage is always knowing where you stand and where others intend to place you. Dirty players rarely rush. They allow others to exhaust themselves explaining, justifying, reacting. While you are busy proving your position, they are measuring your limits. Measurement is quiet. It does not announce itself. It waits for repetition. Every time you respond emotionally, another data point is collected. Over time, a profile forms. Once your thresholds are known, pressure becomes precise. This is why speed often works against you. Fast reactions feel decisive but usually reveal too much. They expose priorities, insecurities, and tolerance. Slow responses create fog. Fog disrupts calculation. When others cannot predict how you will move, they hesitate. Hesitation weakens influence. Silence plays a central role here. Not passive silence, but deliberate absence of reaction. Silence forces projection. People begin filling gaps with their own assumptions. Those assumptions betray motive. Impatience grows. Attempts to provoke increase. Each escalation exposes intent. In this way, silence becomes active without effort. Another principle Machiavelli observed is that power prefers position over argument. Arguments invite equality. Position establishes hierarchy. When you argue, you imply mutual authority. When you act without debate, others adjust around you. This is why explaining too much weakens stance. Explanation invites evaluation. Evaluation invites challenge. Those who manipulate understand this. They ask questions not to understand, but to pull you into justification. Once inside that frame, you are no longer directing the exchange. You are responding to it. The more you respond, the more control shifts outward. Authority dissolves into defense. Maintaining authority requires restraint, not silence forever, but selectivity. Speaking only when speech changes outcome. Acting without commentary. Allowing results to speak. This denies manipulators material. Without material, tactics fail. Positioning also involves environment. Dirty players choose settings carefully. They wait for audiences, timing, fatigue. They provoke when response will appear unreasonable. If you do not see the setup, you will mistake manipulation for coincidence. Awareness disrupts this. When you slow down, the design becomes visible. Refusing to perform expected roles weakens positioning. If you do not become defensive when framed as difficult, the label loses force. If you do not rush to clarify when misunderstood, narrative stalls. When scripts fail, manipulators lose leverage. Fairness often becomes a liability here. Fairness assumes shared values. Dirty players exploit this assumption. They step outside rules while expecting you to remain inside them. While you calculate ethics, they calculate advantage. Momentum shifts quickly. This does not mean abandoning principles, it means applying them with accuracy. Accuracy responds to behavior, not ideals. When boundaries are crossed, consequence restores balance. Without consequence, patterns repeat. Symbols do not deter. Cost does. Delayed response reclaims tempo. When urgency is denied, pressure reverses. Those who push for speed reveal insecurity. Calm waiting unsettles them. They begin adjusting, second-guessing, overreaching. Each move weakens their position. Identity is another target. Manipulators destabilize by questioning who you are becoming. They imply deviation, inconsistency, loss of authenticity. This creates internal friction. While you self-evaluate, they advance. Anchoring identity internally prevents this. When self-definition is private, commentary loses power. Predictability is comfort for those seeking control. Controlled inconsistency disrupts it. Variation without explanation forces others to adapt. Entitlement fades. Respect increases quietly. This is autonomy, not chaos. Walking away is often the final lever. Engagement feeds tactics. Absence starves them. When you disengage without explanation, uncertainty replaces confidence. Influence collapses, presence grants access. Removal blocks leverage. Over time, these principles compound. Reputation forms. People adjust before testing. Pressure dissipates before contact. You are no longer reactive terrain. You are solid ground. Power does not need to confront constantly. It shapes environment so confrontation becomes unnecessary. This is elevation, not domination. When interaction becomes costly, manipulation fades. Control over self dissolves control over you. This is the Machiavellian advantage. Not cruelty, not deceit, but clarity. Seeing the game removes surprise. Removing surprise restores position. Position creates freedom. As awareness sharpens, another shift occurs. You stop interpreting behavior emotionally and begin reading it structurally. Patterns replace stories. Motive becomes visible without confrontation. This is where most people regain energy they did not realize they were losing. They are no longer trying to fix people. They are no longer hoping situations improve. They are observing alignment between words and movement. When alignment is absent, adjustment follows without drama. Machiavelli understood that most conflict persists because people remain invested in correction. They believe explanation will restore balance. They believe if they clarify intent, fairness will reappear. This belief keeps them engaged far longer than necessary. Dirty players rely on this attachment. They assume you need resolution. When you no longer need it, leverage dissolves. Another uncomfortable truth emerges here. Many people mistake engagement for strength. They think staying in the conversation proves confidence. In reality, prolonged engagement often signals dependence. When you need the exchange to resolve in your favor, you remain accessible. Accessibility is leverage for others. Removing it resets balance. This is why selective withdrawal is powerful. Not disappearance, not avoidance, but controlled reduction of availability. You respond less. You explain less. You invest only where reciprocity exists. Those who benefited from constant access feel this immediately. Their tone changes. They test. They provoke. Each attempt confirms intent. Machiavelli recognized that influence collapses when access is not guaranteed. Manipulation requires feedback. Without it, tactics cannot calibrate. This is why silence and distance are more disruptive than confrontation. Confrontation keeps the channel open. Distance closes it. Over time, this changes how people approach you. They become more deliberate. They consider cost before behavior. Not because you threaten them, but because outcomes are no longer predictable. Predictability creates entitlement. Uncertainty creates respect. Another layer forms here. You stop overcorrecting perception. When misunderstood, you no longer rush to clarify. You allow misinterpretation to exist. This feels uncomfortable at first because ego wants accuracy. But accuracy is not always advantageous. Letting others project reveals their assumptions. Those assumptions often expose insecurity or agenda. Machiavelli understood that authority is not built by constant self-definition. It is built by consistency of outcome. When results remain stable, interpretation becomes irrelevant. People adjust to what works, not what is explained. This restraint also protects identity. When you no longer defend who you are, identity stabilizes. External commentary loses impact. You are no longer reacting to labels. You are acting from alignment. That alignment is felt even when unseen. Dirty players attempt to fracture this by questioning consistency. They frame change as instability, growth as betrayal. They imply you are no longer who you were. This tactic only works when identity is externally anchored. When values are internal, evolution does not create doubt. It creates direction. The more you anchor internally, the less persuasive external pressure becomes. Decisions simplify, boundaries firm. You no longer negotiate with behavior that violates alignment. You adjust access instead. This quiet correction is more effective than argument. Another principle Machiavelli observed is that power accumulates through asymmetry. When others reveal more than you do, advantage grows. When others explain while you observe, leverage increases. When others rush while you wait, position strengthens. This asymmetry is not manipulation, it is discipline. It requires resisting the urge to match energy. When others escalate, you stabilize. When others demand clarity, you delay. When others seek reaction, you withdraw. Each choice preserves structure. Over time, this changes reputation. You become someone who does not respond on command, someone whose engagement is earned, someone whose silence is not empty. This reputation travels faster than explanation. People adjust before testing. Machiavelli knew that fear does not always appear as intimidation. It often appears as caution, as second-guessing, as restraint. When people hesitate around you not out of hostility but calculation, respect has formed. This respect is not emotional. It is structural. It exists even when absent. It does not require reinforcement. It persists because behavior around you carries consequence. At this stage, conflict reduces naturally. Not because others become virtuous, but because engagement is no longer profitable. Dirty players seek return on effort. When effort yields nothing, they redirect. This is the quiet victory most never experience. Not dominance, but irrelevance to manipulation. You are no longer an efficient target. Energy moves elsewhere. Machiavelli never framed this as morality. He framed it as survival. When systems reward exploitation, clarity is defense. When environments punish naivety, awareness is protection. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming precise. You are not withdrawing from life. You are choosing where life flows. This precision frees attention. Focus returns. Energy stabilizes. You invest where growth exists, not where extraction thrives. This is not isolation, it is selectivity. As selectivity becomes habit, alignment strengthens, decisions feel cleaner, reactions slow. You recognize setups before stepping into them. You feel pressure before it peaks. This anticipation prevents damage. Eventually, something subtle changes. People stop trying to move you, not because you resist harder, but because resistance is no longer required. The environment adapts. This is Machiavelli's quiet lesson. Power does not argue. It positions. It does not explain. It allows others to expose themselves. It does not chase fairness. It enforces accuracy. When this becomes internalized, you are no longer surprised by behavior. You are no longer offended by tactics. You recognize patterns and adjust distance. You are not harder. You are clearer. And clarity, once established, is difficult to disrupt. This is the stage where most conflicts end before beginning, where manipulation dissolves before forming, where position replaces reaction. And this is where control becomes freedom. At the final stage, something fundamental shifts. You no longer experience situations as tests of worth. You experience them as information flows. Each interaction delivers data, not judgment. Tone, timing, persistence, withdrawal, all of it speaks. You listen without attachment. This is where emotional hooks lose their grip. Machiavelli understood that most people are controlled not by force but by unresolved needs. The need to be understood, the need to be validated, the need to be seen as fair, good, reasonable. These needs create openings. When they dissolve, leverage disappears. You stop trying to win exchanges and start shaping conditions. This is not arrogance, it is orientation. Winning an argument changes nothing if the environment stays the same. Shaping conditions removes the argument entirely. At this level, you rarely correct disrespect directly. You correct access. You do not educate others on how to treat you. You demonstrate it through availability. Presence becomes conditional. Absence becomes instructional. People sense this immediately. They feel when interaction with you is optional, not guaranteed. This changes tone faster than words ever could. They become measured. They consider consequence. They slow down. Machiavelli saw that authority does not demand compliance. It removes alternatives. When behavior no longer produces desired outcomes, it stops. This is why consequence is more effective than confrontation. Another realization settles in. You are not responsible for maintaining equilibrium with those who benefit from imbalance. Fairness is not owed to those acting in bad faith. Precision is required instead. Precision means matching response to reality, not intention. It means observing what behavior produces and adjusting accordingly. It means letting discomfort teach where explanation fails. At this stage, silence is not passive. It is active containment. You are no longer withholding out of fear. You are withholding out of clarity. Each word spoken is chosen. Each engagement is intentional. This makes you difficult to provoke. Provocation requires predictability. Without it, attempts feel awkward. Aggressors reveal impatience. Manipulators expose urgency. Both signal weakness. You begin noticing how often people rely on emotional escalation to gain control. Raised voices, implied threats, manufactured urgency. When these tools stop working, behavior changes. Machiavelli understood that power prefers invisibility. The less obvious it is, the more effective it becomes. Loud power attracts resistance. Quiet power attracts compliance. Your calm presence begins to alter dynamics without effort. Others adjust unconsciously. They mirror tone. They lower volume. They explain themselves. You listen. Listening becomes your advantage. While others speak to control narrative, you observe structure. Who speaks when? Who interrupts? Who deflects? Who escalates? Patterns emerge. These patterns inform decisions. Who to trust? Who to distance? Who to ignore? You no longer guess. You no longer hope. you know. This knowledge removes fear. Fear thrives in uncertainty. When motives are visible, anxiety fades. You are not surprised, you are prepared. At this point, walking away becomes effortless, not dramatic, not emotional, simply aligned. When interaction no longer serves growth or stability, it ends. Without explanation. This unsettles those accustomed to influence. They attempt re-entry. They test boundaries. Each test reinforces your position. Machiavelli noted that withdrawal is often mistaken for weakness. In reality, it signals independence. Those who do not need engagement hold power over those who do. Your reputation solidifies here. You are known as someone who does not overreact, does not chase, who does not argue endlessly. This reputation protects you more than any defense. People begin self-regulating around you. They choose words carefully. They respect time. They avoid games. Not because you demanded it, but because experience taught them cost. This is the final Machiavellian truth. Power is not about domination. It is about becoming expensive to manipulate. When your internal state cannot be moved easily, external tactics lose value. When your energy is selective, extraction fails. When your reactions are delayed or absent, pressure collapses. You are no longer playing the game emotionally. You are positioning structurally. This does not make you distant from everyone. It makes connection intentional. Those who respect boundaries gain access. Those who test them lose it. Your circle changes. Drama fades. Conversations deepen. Opportunities align. Not by force, but by filtration. Machiavelli never promised comfort. He promised clarity. Clarity brings peace not because the world becomes kind, but because you are no longer confused by it. You stop expecting fairness from those who profit from chaos. You stop explaining yourself to those who seek leverage. You stop reacting to noise. Instead, you move deliberately. You speak sparingly. You engage selectively. You withdraw confidently. This is not a performance. It is integration. Once integrated, you no longer need tactics consciously. Behavior flows naturally from awareness. Silence appears when needed. Distance forms automatically. Presence becomes weighty. Others feel this without understanding it. They sense something changed. They cannot quite name it, but they adjust. This is when manipulation ends, not because manipulators vanish, but because you are no longer accessible. Machiavelli understood that the highest position is not at the center of conflict, but above it, where outcomes are influenced without direct involvement. You have reached that position when disrespect no longer triggers response, when confusion no longer demands clarity, when pressure no longer accelerates decision. You are not unfeeling. You are unmoved, and that is the difference. You did not become cruel. You became aware. You did not harden. You sharpened. You did not isolate. You selected. This is the quiet power Machiavelli described. Not loud, not flashy, not obvious, but effective. From here forward, you no longer ask how to respond to dirty play. You are no longer in range, and that is the ultimate advantage.